Hello, welcome to more yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. Whew, got something in my eye. You'd think I would restart, but I'm not going to, because you know what you get with me, authenticity. All right, thanks so much for coming. Today we're going to work the outer hip and outer thigh a little bit. What do I mean by work? Well, we're actually going to try to strengthen these areas, but then we'll also release, right? Because you know me, or maybe you don't. But before we stretch something, I really like activating it first. Right? It almost kind of helps your brain figure out where you need to send the stretch, right? By finding these muscles that we're sending a little bit more blood to. Anyway, don't worry about it. Let's start lying down. Depending on how your low back feels today, you might want to keep your knees bent, or maybe you extend your legs. I'm going to keep mine bent. If you're like me with the knees bent, take your feet wider than your hips and let your knees hang in toward each other so that they're touching. Right? This takes all of the instability, all of the muscle control out of it. So you can really just be here at ease. And maybe a little loop of your shoulder blades onto your back, just so the chest, the shoulders can open a little bit more, at least the front of the shoulders. And for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. And exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more, just like that. And continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Notice how your breath is flowing, how it feels. How does it sound? And the much better able we are at focusing on just the breath, the more, the less it starts to matter what's going on in our minds, what's going on outside of our space right now. So that for this moment in time, it no longer matters what has happened in your day. It no longer matters what you have to do when you leave. You can just be here and now. Last few breaths here. And when you feel ready, start to bring a little bit of movement back into your body. Whatever way feels best for you to wake up. So you feel ready to draw your knees in toward your chest and take a little rock from side to side. And you might start to draw circles with your legs and your hip sockets here. Maybe you take your legs in the same direction as each other. Maybe they go in opposite directions. Last couple breaths just to move however you need to move. All right. And then wherever you are, bring your feet back to the floor and roll to one side. Doesn't matter which side. I'm going to roll on to my left side. So my right side is up high. Now, from here, you could bend your bottom elbow and rest your head on your hand if you wish, or you might just cradle your head on your arm, or maybe you have a pillow that you can bring. I'm going to bring my head to my hand because I feel like this looks a little bit sassier. I'm feeling a bit sassy today. So bend your bottom knee for a little bit more stability. Top leg stays extended. And then I want you to flex your toes back toward you and then kick your leg back slightly. From here, lift your heel up to the sky, turn your toes down towards the floor, and we're going to take a few pulses of that leg up. But I want you to think it's not just lifting up sideways, it's lifting up and back on a diagonal. Okay? Heel down, toes to the floor. So what this is doing is, in theory, hopefully, starting to fire up the muscles of the outer hip and the ones that attach the outer thigh. These are big stabilizers, but they're smaller muscles, if you get my meaning there, right? So it takes a little bit of effort to turn them on. Glute med especially is an important one for stability. So the more we do this, the more you might start to feel it starting to burn or bark in your thigh, in that outer hip. Last couple breaths here, right? Toes down, heel up, kick back and up. All right, and then release, shake it out a little bit. And then we'll switch sides. You can just roll over. I'm going to spin around so I'm still facing the camera. You can spin too if you want to. And then bend your bottom knee. Extend your top leg. Flex the toes. Right? So dorsiflex, flex the toes back toward you. Turn your heel up, toes towards the floor. And then start that little lift back and up. Now, maybe this side starts to burn a little bit quicker because it was stabilizing you when we were on the first side. But we're still going to do as long on this side because now the bottom side, you can probably still feel it. Again, I hesitate to use the word burn, but that's sort of what it feels like because the lactic acid buildup from this type of movement. A few more here. Kick up and back. Not so much that your low back starts to arch, though. Heel up, toes down. Last three. Last one. And release. Shake it out a little bit. Whew. Roll over onto your back. Draw your legs toward you. A little rock from side to side. And then you might stay here, one hand to each knee, or you could clasp your hands over top of your shins. And maybe that just feels right there like a really great release for your low back. Maybe you start to gently curl your nose toward your knees without gripping into the shoulders and neck. Last option is to press your shins up to the sky, getting even more rounding through the low back. And then release. Shake it all out. You might grab the backs of your thighs here and start to rock and roll up and down your spine, hovering on the sit bones possibly. Shoulder blades to sit bones. And if that doesn't feel good, then you can roll to one side and press yourself up, but we'll meet on hands and knees. So let's start to move through cat and cow here. Just release through the spine a little bit. Hands nice and wide. Toes can be tucked or untucked. And then inhale, lift the tailbone. Hollow through the lower back. Broaden through your collarbones. Exhale, tuck your tailbone under. Round through your spine. Really press the floor away from you with your hands. And inhale, dip into cow. Exhale, round into cat. So a few more of these undulations on your own time, on your own breath. Maybe there's some other natural movement that would feel really good here. Could be a wag of your tail from side to side, or barrel rolls through your chest. You could snake toward the floor, send your hips back toward your heels. Last couple breaths. All right, and then come back to center. If you want to give your hands a little break, give them a little break. And if you have something that you can kneel on for a little bit more padding, then go ahead and bring it underneath your right knee, and then come back to hands and knees. All right, little draw of belly button to spine. From here, we're going to work the outer left hip a little bit more. So keeping your knee bent, open your knee out to the side. Now the hips, the pelvis are going to want to shift. I want you to lift only so far as you can while keeping everything else in your body stable. So what you're limited by is literally your femur in the hip socket, right? So it's not it's not like if you're stronger or more mobile, you can lift higher. It's just the shape of your bones. Last couple here. All right, and then start to allow the movement to get bigger, and this time you can move through the body. Maybe do circles or figure eights. And then you maybe start to feel that right hip firing up a little bit for support. And then come back to center. We'll switch sides. So if you're using padding, bring it underneath your left knee. And then really strong through the core. Little draw of belly button to spine. Keep your right knee bent, and then take those little wings out to the side. Some people call this like dog on a fire hydrant. But really keep the pelvis stable while the whole spine stable. And then start to change the movement, make it bigger, or circles, or figure eights. Any way you need to move. All right, and then come back to center and give your wrists a little break, little shake out. You might bring the back of the hands together. And then make your way either to hands and knees or join me in downward facing dog. If you're in down dog, take a couple seconds here to pedal the heels toward the floor. Maybe wag your tail from side to side. All right, so similar movement to what we did from hands and knees. And maybe you're still on hands and knees, and that's awesome. On your inhale, lift your left leg back out behind you. And then start to take your leg out to the left. So flex the toes to the floor. Press the heel out to the left. Now, if you're on hands and knees, it's kind of a weird movement. If you're in downward facing dog, it's kind of a weird movement. But I want you to think of bringing the sole of the foot as far over to the left as you can. And then inhale, come back to center. I'm going to switch directions so that I don't kick a hole in my wall or knock over my bookshelf. Inhale, the right leg high, and then take the leg out to the right. Flex the toes towards the floor. Press the heel further away. Maybe you lift the heel up a little bit higher. Press the sole of the foot out to the right. And then slowly come back to center. Whew. Release your knees to the earth if they're lifted, and shake out your hands. Is that as much balancing when you go down the hands? I think so. Especially because before this, I just recorded the side plank class, so my wrists are feeling not tired, but you know, like they need a break. Okay, make your way into your standing forward fold. You could rest your elbows on your knees or thighs. You could clasp opposite elbows with hands. You could sway a little bit from side to side. Maybe you bring blocks underneath your hands, or a stack of pillows or books. Last couple breaths here. And then release your hands if they're bound. Bring your fingertips to your shins. Press them fingers into the shins to inhale. Lift up partway, belly button to spine. Back the neck stays long. Exhale, let it all go. Couple more, just like that. Inhale. And exhale, release. Two more. And then bend your knees. Tuck your chin into your chest. Slow as you can, start to roll up to standing. One vertebra at a time. As slow as you need to go. Till you come all the way up. Couple loops of your shoulders. Up, back, and down. Or a little wiggle, noodle, or shake out. All right. Bring your hands to your hips. Maybe fix your clothes first. Bend your knees. Take a few hip circles one direction. And then the other. And then a little twist from side to side. All right. On your inhale, sweep the arms up to the sky. Flip your palms skyward. Grab hold of your right wrist with your left hand. Lift a little bit taller. And then exhale, pull over to the left, but send your hips to the right. So big, long side stretch. You might stay here. That left leg might de-weight, or it might cross in front or behind of the supporting leg to really anchor into the stretch a little bit more. And then on your inhale, return to center, shake out your arms, get the blood flow back, and then we'll switch sides. Inhale up to the sky. This time grab the left wrist, lift tall. Exhale over to the right, send the hips to the left. Maybe you stay here, maybe that leg de-weights, or maybe you cross it in front or behind the supporting leg to anchor into the stretch a little bit more. And then on your inhale, return to center. Shake it all out. So one thing I forgot to mention at the start is you might want blocks or a coffee table or a sofa or something nearby that you can bring your hands to. Just for a little bit more balance, a little bit more stability. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. You're just going to end up working harder. Okay, come to the top edge of the mat. On your inhale, sweep up to the sky. Exhale, melt to the earth. Forward fold. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Charge your legs. Inhale, sweep all the way up to the sky. And exhale, hands to prayer. So from here, send your weight to your right leg. Little buoyancy on that supporting knee. And extend your left leg in front of you. Flex the toes back towards the feet. And then take a few pulses of the leg up. Think almost of hugging that heel or dragging it back toward you to lift up the leg. On your exhale, start to sweep your leg back for a warrior three. Now, whatever angle you need to be on, and this is where hands on blocks can be really useful for more stability. Okay, so go where you need to go. And then same thing we did from downward facing dog or hands and knees. Start to take your left leg out to the left. Arms can go out to the side. Maybe your hands are on the floor. Maybe that leg is not lifted up super high at all. That's okay. Couple more breaths just to fly in this sort of weird thing. And then on your inhale, come all the way up to standing. Oh, step it down. Shake out the legs a little bit. And then we'll switch sides. And I'm going to turn to face this other way. Maybe you need to shift your position too so you don't kick a hole in your wall. I get it. All right. Send your weight to your left foot and then bring your right leg in front of you. Again, try not to lift it, reach it forward or buckle back. Nice tall posture. A few pulses of that leg. almost imagine that you're trying to pull your heel toward you to lift the leg up. And then on your next exhale, sweep back to warrior three. And maybe you start to take the leg out to the side. I'm going to use blocks on this side. As you flex the toes to the floor, heel lifts, bring the leg as far out to the side as you can. Obviously, you're going to have a smaller range of motion probably if you don't have hands on blocks on the floor. And then inhale, come all the way up to standing. Exhale, shake it out. All right, awesome work. Enough of that. Let's release through the outer hip. Now inhale up to the sky. Exhale, melt to the earth. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. And then on your inhale, step your right leg back and release your knee to the floor or a chip foam block. On your inhale, come up to half kneeling. To start with, how much time do we have? No, we've got enough. Okay, so from here we're going to shift back into a half splits position. I'm going to move my block a little bit further back. So hips go back as you extend through the front leg. This is another place where you're going to really want blocks or a sofa or a coffee table on the left side of your body. Okay, wrap your outer right hip forward. Draw your outer left hip back. Not so much that you're twisting to the left, but so that you're not reaching forward with that front femur. Okay, so basic hamstring stretch, right? Sure. Maybe now you start to twist to the left. You can bring your blocks in front of you. I want you to keep wrapping this outer left hip back. Maybe you have a wall that you can bring your hands to or a coffee table. Maybe you're just rocking the balance or fingertips on the floor. But draw the outer left hip back as you twist. Last couple of breaths here. Do you feel that all along this side? Or at least somewhere? And then slowly on your inhale, return to center. Shift forward back into that front knee. And then sweep your left knee underneath you. Little wiggle or shake. And then if you're using padding, bring it underneath the left knee and then step or sweep the right foot forward. Inhale here, and then exhale, shift your hips back as you extend through your front leg for half splits. Again, a couple breaths in your basic half splits. Hands could be on hips or a wall or blocks if you have them. Keep wrapping the outer left hip forward now as you draw the outer right hip back. Flare the toes on the front foot. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you start to twist a little bit more. Over to the right. You can bring your blocks with you. Here, really keep drawing that outer right hip back. Feel the toes back. Knee can be deeply bent. Doesn't need to be straight. And that might help with the balance as well. Last couple breaths here. All right, inhale slowly, return to center, shift your weight forward, and then come down to hands and knees. Little wiggle or shake or cat and cow. And then shift your hips on one side, swing your legs forward, and then make your way down onto the mat. You could do a Pilates style roll down or support yourself as you come down onto your back. Bend your knees, and then we'll move into a figure four stretch. So cross the right ankle over top of the left thigh. This might be enough for you, or you might start to draw your legs towards you. You could bring a block, you could have a strap behind that left leg. Maybe you just use the muscles of your core to draw your legs toward you. You could rock a little bit from side to side. But keep these right toes, the ankle that is crossed, so those toes flexed back toward the shin. Really getting into the outer hip and thigh now. Last couple breaths here. Excuse me. And slowly, gently unwind, shake out your legs, and then we'll switch sides. So now cross your left ankle over top of the right thigh. Flex the toes back toward the shin. Everyone's getting deliveries these days, even me. And then maybe start to draw your legs toward you. You can take a little rock from side to side. You could interlace your hands behind the right thigh. You might just press that left thigh away from you, or even just draw it toward you with one hand. Play here with what you need on this side. Last couple breaths. And then slowly unwind, shake out your legs. Let's take a quick twist from one side to the other. Arms out to the side. Maybe you shift your hips right a little bit to start with. Exhale, lower your knees to the left. You can take any variation of twist that you need to, but we don't have a ton of time to be here. You can always pause the video or stop it and take a lot longer to twist if you would like to. And on your inhale, return to center, reset your pelvis and your spine. Maybe you shift your hips left a little bit to start with, and then exhale, lower your knees to the right. Again, as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need. For just a few breaths here. And then on your inhale, return to center. And then make your way into your final resting pose. Could be flat on your back, legs bent or straight in Shavasana. Maybe you choose to rest on your side, or maybe you take legs up the wall, which could be feel really nice. You could rest in a seated meditation. And as always, there's no rush to get there. But once you have found your pose of rest for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. Let go of your breath control. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in your neck or your jaw. With each exhale, let your body just release a little bit more. And stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.